Now we get to Diddy. So, I think you covered this on your channel, right?
The Cassidy incident, yes, but I didn't get to cover what happened after that.
Yeah.
So
with Cassie, a lot of people were asking about the allegations, and I'm going to go just quickly over the allegations to what Diddy allegedly did that she is claiming that he did. And also I want to go over, and what I'm going to do first is I'm going to go towards the end of this video, and I'm going to share why somebody like her would wait this long. So a lot of people are like, well, why did she wait 10 years? Why did she do this? I think she's just doing it for money because she went straight to civil court. She didn't go to criminal court, blah, blah, blah. Let's do that. Get that out of the way, and then we can go over to the allegations. So let me share my screen really quick. And let's get into it. Boy, oh boy. It is not looking good. And I love her content. She is so fire. Let's see, 16, 17. So
wine and chill. She's a lawyer.
Yep. Let me see. Let's go. Boom. All right. So let me expand. Oh my God. I placed the wrong time to have her pause. Okay. Let's go.
And typically, I want to focus on why 99% of cases settle in the first place. I'm talking about any type of case. In a case of this nature,
First of all, she said 99% of cases settle.
Yes.
So when people go, why do they settle? Well, 99% of cases, it settles. So let's just clear that air right there. So yeah, let's continue.
It makes sense. Because trial is extremely unkind, and that's putting it nicely, to victims of abuse. So often they will bring up character evidence, which they're not supposed to in certain states bring up character evidence about the character of the victim. They will bring that up just to mess with the victim, to get to taunt the victim. And with a case of this nature, she put everything out there. This is the humiliation I've faced. This is what I've been forced to do. Forcing her into a trial would be inhumane, to be honest. So this is something that a Hollywood Reporter, Cassie reportedly added in a statement. I have decided to resolve this matter amicably on terms that I have some level of control. I want to thank my family, fans, and lawyers for their unwavering support. And I think the most important part of this is I want to resolve this matter in terms that I have some level of control. This is a woman who unfortunately has been put through the worst amount of abuse for 10 years with no control over any of her life. This is very similar, and somebody said that in the comments as well, to a conservatorship. One and the same. You have somebody forcing people to drive you to and from the hospital, allegedly, when you are getting battered and bruised. You have people looking at your health records, your MRI, because now you have memory loss because you have been plied with drugs from the time you were 20 years old. You have people buying you a home to lock you in said home, to lock you in hotel rooms. That is kidnapping. There's no control over that, over yourself. There are allegations in the complaint that stated even she lost multiple friends that tried to stick up for her and were like, hey, stop that, to which some of her friends have been allegedly assaulted. And that then deteriorated the friendship. So she didn't have anybody. So I definitely understand wanting to be like, hey, I want to settle this on my terms. Because a lot of times most victims want to be heard. This is in the public record. She has been heard. It will never go away. It is always going to be in the public record that she made all these allegations. And she made these allegations so specifically because most likely she has the evidence to back them up. The screenshots, the voicemails, the text messages, the physical evidence, the doctor's visits, the amount of time she's had to go to the doctor. So I think that makes a lot of sense. There are so many people who have witnessed things who would likely have been paraded into the court to be like, yeah, of course he did that. And simultaneously, the toll it would have taken on somebody who has been subjected to this level of abuse and violence for a decade, probably would have led to some sort of breakdown. So Douglas Wigor, a lawyer for Cassie, proceeded to respond in a statement saying, Mr. Combs offered Miss Ventura 8 figures to silence her and prevent the filing of the lawsuit. She rejected his efforts and decided to give a voice to all women who suffer in silence.
First of all, I want to ask, because a lot of people are like, well, she just wanted money from Diddy. Well, why didn't she take the 8 figures?
Right.
Because that's $10+ million.
Right.
So why didn't she take it?
Right. If it was just about the money.
If it was just about the money, then she could have just said, all right, I'll shut up. And he could have probably had her sign an NDA and it would have been over. But he didn't. Well, she didn't accept it. So if she didn't accept it, that means that she wanted it to be more legit, put it into the court system, into the penal system, into the law, So not into the law, but into the record legally.
Mm-hmm.
So because she could have actually just went onto Instagram Live. She could have went on a TikTok. She could have put this out anywhere else, and just for the court of public opinion. But no, she went to the actual authorities.
Right. There's more too. I think people have to understand that the entertainment industry can be very vicious. The music industry in particular, a lot of times when they sign these girls are relatively young. Cassie was 19 years old when she met Diddy, and yes, legally an adult, but just think about like what you were doing when you were 19, right? So I'm thinking about like my mindset when I was 19 years old, right? So a lot of times they find these girls, they sign them, they're very young, inexperienced, right? They don't know a lot about the world just yet. And there's more. It's not just Cassie. That's the thing people have to understand. Kesha, actually, she came forward and said that she was drugged and abused by her producer, I believe, if I remember correctly, in the music industry. There was also another woman. I'm trying to see if I can find her on YouTube. She came out about this I want to say a couple years ago. There was a woman who was signed actually to a label. She's not performing anymore, but she actually did a couple of interviews. I think one with Vlad TV, where she actually revealed all these rappers and producers in the music industry that she said she saw sexually abuse women. And she said that one of the women that was abused was Mary J. Blige. And that's sad because Mary J. Blige was abused when she was a child, So it's like, but she told a lot of information. I'll see if I can pull it.
So going to finish this off, and then we can get to some of the accusations. I have to be very, very careful because some of the accusations are pretty graphic.
And I know people will push back and say, well, then why settle? Because of the fact that she even put this out there, she has stated like, hey, this happened to me. I'm having the courage to say this out loud, to air out all the things that have happened to me that I've had to live through now for all of these years. She has given a voice to other victims. She should not have to be paraded in court for everyone else. If you want to put yourself through trial, more power to you. But here you have somebody who named the thing, who called out the executive specifically by name, said so-and-so called me and threatened me. So-and-so did this. So-and-so saw this. All of these companies, all these assistants have been abused. All of the security guards now are complicit. They didn't even want to do this to me. All of this abuse is taking forward. So I don't think it's particularly fair for other people to be like, well, you should have went to trial. Were you going to sit there and hold her hand throughout the whole trial? Were you going to sit there and pay for the extra therapy to make sure a mental breakdown is not going to occur when she has to sit there and look in the face of her abuser?
So that's pretty much the reason why she decided to settle. Because people don't realize going through a trial is a huge ordeal.
Yep. It can take years too. It can take a long time.
Yep. definitely. And then on top of that, the court costs and stuff, man, it's a lot.
Yep.
All right, so here's some of the allegations.
To get to the beginning of the lawsuit in a second, but I thought it would be better to kind of set up how could this have occurred for 10 years without anybody saying anything, and the level of coercion that.
So I'm just going to read this just to go through it quickly. It says, defendant Sean Combs, upon information and belief, resides within the state of California. At all relevant times herein, Mr. Combs met the definition of employer to plaintiff under all relevant statutes. Defendant Bad Boy Entertainment is a music media entertainment company founded by defendant Sean Combs, which includes the record label Defendant Bad Boy Records LLC. At all relevant times, defendant was an employer to plaintiff within the meaning of all applicable statutes. Defendant Bad Boy LLC is a Delaware limited company. Of course, it's in Delaware. Limited liability company with a principal place of business located in New York, New York. At all relevant times, defendant was an employer of plaintiff within the meaning of all applicable statutes. Defendant Epic Records. So basically, she talks about how Cassie is actually a employee of Sean Combs.
Right.
And one of the things that I wanted to bring out was she actually talked about how he was in a 10-year deal. She was signed, to a 10 album deal.
Right.
So a 10 album deal, that's massive. Like, most people do not even do 10 albums. And the fact that she was signed to a 10 album deal at 19 years old.
Yeah, I mean, she was talented, just like a lot of other people that Diddy signed that you just don't hear from anymore, right? Like whatever happened to what's the name of the girl group that came from making the band, Danny Kane? They were tremendously talented.
Yeah,
everything that Diddy touches, it just does not have longevity. Like these people's careers, they come out, they have a couple of hits, and then they just disappear.
Yeah. And there was I'm going to get into some more of the allegations in a second, but somebody brought out this interesting factoid. They said that, isn't it interesting how, you remember a few months back when Diddy decided to give the rights, the album rights, the masters back to all the artists that were part of Bad Boy?
Yep.
As long as they signed an NDA. That happened a few months back.
Yep.
So, did Diddy know something was afoot? And why sign an NDA?
Well, I have that video ready whenever you're ready, because her name is Jaguar Wright, and she was a singer. Yes, thank you, Roger. I just found it. Jaguar Wright. She was a singer, and she was another one who kind of disappeared musically, but she has been doing numerous interviews revealing some of the things that she saw in the entertainment, more so the music business, in reference to sexual abuse. And this is, a lot of people, I think in the beginning, the first time she tried to do this, they wanted to write her off. But the thing I noticed about her is that her claims are too detailed, in my opinion, to have made all this up.
Go ahead and give it a play, because I think that's interesting.
Let me pop it up here. Her name is Jaguar Wright, and I'll go ahead and let me share, because I want people to see this, because she just recently did another interview. This one is from, it says 13 days ago, and it says urgent message to Cassie and all of Diddy's victims. I also want people to know that Wendy Williams also said something that she said, oh, so people finally know. So I don't think, I don't think this is something that was a secret in the music industry. But listen to what she says here.
Advocate for you. Because see, I know something that a lot of people don't know. I know that you and Kim Porter had a sit down right before she left us.
Tell him, please, tell him.
And I know Kim had some very good advice to give you. And I believe that this is why things are happening as they're happening now. Kim was smart, wasn't she, Cassie? Kept you alive and kept you safe. I will advocate for you. I went to shits. Fuck Honeycomb. But you are a victim. And I know that.
Let me just pause and explain to people who Kim Porter is. Kim Porter was Diddy's ex-girlfriend. They had, I think, 2 kids. They had a set of twins together. They had twins together. She was formerly with Albie Shore, so she had a son with Albie Shore as well before she was with Diddy. But she wanted to marry Diddy, and Diddy said no. He said that he loved her immensely, but he could never marry someone, right? So she died. I believe you'll have to correct me, JB. I think she had pneumonia.
I don't remember.
Yeah, she died. It kind of just came out of nowhere, but I'll go ahead and continue.
Yeah.
Congratulations on surviving and congratulations on standing up. I'll advocate for you. Fuck that pussy and his little fucking dog.
Now you want to know what's crazy, Jaguar?
What?
I was, and I can just say it now because I mean I'm not gonna do it. So why not just talk about it now? I had an offer to go over there to Revolt.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yep, I had an offer.
This is another one that's coming up now too, that now that this information is coming out about Diddy, about Bad Boy, they're also bringing up Revolt. I don't know if everyone's familiar with Revolt, with that entertainment company, but a lot of this is connected.
They've been.
Let me pull this over here. Sorry. Here it is.
And that just sounded crazy to me. That just like you can have me in the room with him tomorrow. Like what? Excuse me.
Like it's the grandest honor on earth.
You didn't say we could have a meeting to talk about XYZ. You didn't say we could. You didn't say nothing about business. You said, "Oh, I can have you in the room with him tomorrow."
So they're talking about Puff Daddy, about having that guy in the room with Puff Daddy the next day. And I think another thing that people have to know too, because like I said, it's not just Cassie. There have been more victims that have come forward recently about Diddy. One of them actually said that Diddy and Aaron Hall, who I don't know if everyone's familiar with him, but also another former singer, also was a producer. She said that both of them assaulted her.
All right. So let's get back to some of the allegations. So
Defendant Bad Boy Entertainment is a music, media, and entertainment company founded by defendant Sean Combs, which includes the record label Defendant Bad Boy Records, LLC. At all times, defendant was an employer of plaintiff within the meaning of applicable statutes. And this is very important because I think it's not well known the length of her record deal and how this entire time she was in a coercive employer-employee forced relationship as well. Within months of her single coming out, Miss Ventura signed a 10-album deal with Mr. Combs' record label. Miss Ventura's first album, Cassie, was released in August 2006, debuting Combs' abuse. Anytime she tried to create distance between her and Mr. Combs, he used his network to find her and convince her to return to his abuse. On multiple occasions, Mr. Combs sent employees to lure Ms. Ventura back. Employees that are employed in various capacities at the record label, at the overarching Combs LLC, the parent corporations, were allegedly sent to tell Cassie, like, oh, hey, you know what? You should just go home. Everything is fine. Just, it's going to get better. Go home, which is disgusting. After this specific incident, Miss Ventura left her home in Comstock and went to hide away at a friend's home in Florida. James Cruz, president of Bad Boy Management, tracked Miss Ventura down and told her that her single would not be released if she did not answer Combs' phone calls.
So this is part of what's going on, is just that he was basically, threatening her with basically not making money if she didn't answer his calls and come back to him despite the abuse that was happening.
And there's another one I think people need to research as well is Drew Dixon. Drew Dixon actually came forward about sexual assault allegations against Russell Simmons. Now, and I heard he's another one that I had heard rumors about as well, that he also had assaulted women, but she basically kind of lost everything after she came forward about the allegations about Russell Simmons. She's on Twitter. You can look her up, but she's done a couple of interviews about it. But she said the reason why she didn't come forward right away was because she was afraid that she was going to lose, her career and everything. And this is what they'll do.
Mm-hmm. So let me continue this. All right. So
the truth, however, is that Cassie, Miss Cassandra Ventura, was held down by Mr. Combs and endured over a decade of his violent behavior and disturbed demands. For Miss Ventura, the dark times were those she spent trapped by Mr. Combs in a cycle of abuse, violence, and sex trafficking. Among other violent and unlawful acts, Mr. Combs, and again, these are allegations from a legal sense. However, an allegation that has receipts, well documented. The allegations read: Mrs. Ventura in her own home after she tried to leave him, often punched, beat, kicked, and stomped on Miss Ventura, resulting in bruises, burst lip, black eyes, and bleeding. Blew up a man's car after he learned that he was romantically interested in Miss Ventura. That person in question's car was Kid Cudi.
Kid Cudi.
Yeah. He's the one that can come forward to admit these things. So again, this is another person that has someone that can confirm some of these things, but then they settled very quickly. Like once the story was out, like they settled within the next couple of days.
24 hours.
Yep. And I'd be curious to hear what Kid Cudi has to say.
Yeah, me too.
Cudi has since confirmed that yes, that is true, that his car was blown up in his driveway. Forced Miss Ventura to engage in sex acts with male sex workers while masturbating and filming the encounters, and introduced Miss Ventura to a lifestyle of excessive alcohol and substance abuse, and required her to procure illicit prescriptions to satisfy his own addiction.
Yep. See, this is why they get these girls when they're really young. Like, think about especially for those of you that went to undergrad, think about what you were doing in undergrad, when you're 19, 20 years old, right? Like you don't have a lot of guidance so much. Like you're a little bit more trusting, I think, than you are as you get older. But this is why they get these girls so young. Russell Simmons met Kimora Lee when she was 17 years old.
Yeah. She started her modeling career as a teenager.
Yes. He was looking at her then. He was already looking at her. What do you know at 17 years old?
Mm-hmm. And two of these that she didn't read in this video, she said, allegedly, he ran out of his apartment with a firearm in pursuit of a rival industry executive whom he learned was nearby, and then demanded that Miss Ventura carry his firearm in her purse just to make her uncomfortable and demonstrate how dangerous he is.
He also asked the hotel, one of these incidents that happened at a hotel in Los Angeles, he also asked the hotel management to pull the security footage and give it to him. He also had her medical records. He got the doctors to give him her medical records. Guys, when have you ever known doctors to do that?
That's a HIPAA violation.
Yep.
Like, how am I going to give my medical records to my boss?